Hello! Today we're going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to show you how to make a time trial in BeamNG. You just need a little bit of curiosity, a little bit of patience, and a little bit of creativity. And with those tools, you'll access the world editor, and you'll be making time trials in no time. You'll start by pressing F11 once you've loaded into your level of choice. And this will open up the world editor. And then you're going to go to Window, Missions, Mission Editor. We're going to File, New Mission. We're going to name this mission Tutorial Time Trial. We're going to change the type to Time Trial, and we're going to click Create Mission. We are going to find a suitable place to start our mission, which I think this intersection should do nicely. We're going to click the Start Editing location. We're going to hold Shift. We're going to click. And that will set us our start location. And that will be where we'll drive to access the beginning of the mission. So we're going to go into the description, and we're just going to say, test time trial description. We are going to, for now, we're just going to skip over preview and thumbnail. Anything in this menu, it's going to tell you how it wants it named: preview.png, preview.jpg, thumbnail.png, thumbnail.jpg. They're not required. You can add them. It'll make it look a little bit nicer. But we're just going to skip it for now. We are not going to require a specific vehicle for this. We're going to let the player choose their vehicle. So we're just going to say add player vehicle to selections. But you can add provided vehicles if you want the time trial to only be doable in certain vehicles. We're going to tell it what time of day we want. Maybe we want this to be like an evening time trial. So 1900, that'd be about 7 p.m. Mission type, time trial. As you can see, we have one error. Race.race.json is missing. And you can see as we scroll down further, we're missing that race.race.json. But we'll get to that in just a second. We can add start screen and end screen text. So mission start, mission complete. We can tell it how many default laps we want. Maybe we want this to be a 2-lap time trial. We can tell it if we want the track to be reversible or a rolling start. So do you want to mirror the track so that people can go both ways? Do you want to allow a rolling start so people can pick up speed so that they can be up to speed by the time the track starts? For these purposes, I'm not going to do that, but those are certainly options you can investigate and add to your time trial. So we do want this to be a closed circuit because I'm going to make it 2 laps long. And so now we get to race.race.json is missing. So we're just going to scroll up and we're going to save. And let's look at how to add a race path. So you go to Window, and you'll go to Gameplay, and you'll go to Race/Path Editor. And this is how we will determine what our track layout is going to be. So I'm just going to click on New, and these are path nodes. These path nodes will tell us how our track is going to go. So same as before, we're just going to Shift and click and drag to add a path node. And this will be the gate that we have to travel through for our time trial. The arrow points which direction we're going to go. So we're going to go all the way, and we are going to add our next path node up here. And you know what? It's 2 one-way streets, but I'm going to allow the player to choose which side they want to go down. So I'm just going to fly over. I'm going to Shift, click, and drag. and that'll add a gate there. And then we'll add one more here on this side. And then we'll add a final one right here. So this is just 4 gates. They're going to go in a circle. And you can see path node 2, path node 3, path node 5, path node 7. So then we're just going to go over to segments. And we see segment 4 goes between 2 and 3. Segment 6 goes between 3 and 5. Segment 8 goes between 5 and 7. But we don't have a segment to connect these last two, so we're just going to click Create. The first node is going to be node 7. And the 2 is going to be set back to path node 2, because that'll complete our circuit. And so now we have 4 path nodes, 4 segments, so we're good to go. We're going to choose a start position. So our start position, we're just going to go down here. We're going to click New, and we're just going to hold Shift, click and drag to set our start position for the track. You can add multiple start positions, and you'll see why that may be important later. So then we're going to go to track layout. Start node is path node 2, which will be between path node 2, or that'll be our first node. And our end node is we're going to leave that as missing because we're a closed circuit. If you were doing a point-to-point, you would just choose your end node and you'd say path node 7 in this case. And then our start position, we're going to choose start position 10, which is our default starting position. Now, if we had set it up so that we could go in reverse or do a rolling start or do a reverse rolling start, we could have 3 different start positions. We could set the rolling start so you had a chance to build up speed into this corner before going. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to roll with it for now. And so we are going to move that off to the side. Because next, if we were to just do this time trial... Oh, we have to save our race tool. I almost forgot. So we're going to go to Save As. And see, it's going to give us the race.race.json. And we know from the mission editor that it wants that race.race.json to be saved to this mission. So we're actually going to go up, and we're going to go to missions. We're going to choose the map. This is West Coast, USA. This is a time trial. And this is number 28R tutorial time trial. Or I'm sorry, it's number 30 tutorial time trial. So I created another tutorial time trial earlier. The recording got corrupted, so we're going to go to number 30 tutorial time trial, final answer. And we are just going to call it race. And we're going to save it to that folder. So now you can see our race file, our race.race.json, is now green instead of a red X. So we are good to go there. So next, we have to set up a prefab. And this prefab is always loaded, so this will be your non-directional markings. So things like barriers that just define the track limits. And then for this one, we're only going to go one way. I'm not setting up a reverse, a forward. So my base prefab will have the directional markings, but if you wanted to have it in forward, reverse, you would set up 2 different prefabs in addition to your base prefab, and that would just include the directional markings, you know, your signs telling you to go left, go right, because those will change based on your course. But we're just going to set up one prefab for now. So I'm going to drag this out of the way, and I'm going to make sure that we select race tool so I can see our path here. And I'm going to go to Windows and Asset Browser. And it's going to take a little bit of time to load all of these assets. And what this is doing is it's giving me the option to select assets available in the level so that I can place them down and use them in my time trial. So we just have to wait for all 6,600 assets to be loaded. And depending on which level you're doing, it's going to have a different number of assets available to you. I believe it just pulls all of the assets that are currently loaded in the level. So if I go up to the top and I open up Saved Filter and I go to All Models, this gives me 930 different meshes that I can use. And I can click on them, and on the right I can see what the preview's going to look like. We can have fences, we can have trees, we can have bollards, we can have a boom lift, all sorts of things. And let's just see, do we have like a concrete barrier? I'm not seeing one. So how are we going to do this? We're just going to find an asset that looks good to us for right now. Guardrail's not quite what I'm looking for. Highway barriers, I don't think those are quite what I'm looking for. And this is the part where a little bit of patience to make sure you get what you want. Oh, perfect, Jersey barrier. So I'm going to double click on the Jersey barrier to spawn it in. And as you can see, it's floating. It does not do me any good up there. So I'm going to go up to the top. I'm going to select Object Select. I'm going to select my Jersey barrier. And then at the top of my screen, I'm going to click Toggle Terrain Snap. And what that does is if I move the Jersey barrier, all of a sudden it snaps it down to the terrain. I didn't need to manually move it at all. So now I can just drag it into where I want it to be. So right now we're translating. The numbers at the top of your keyboard, if you press 1, it selects the Translate tool. 2 is the Rotate tool, so we can rotate this a little bit. And we can see how much we want to rotate it to make sure it still snaps to terrain, but doesn't leave a huge gap underneath. 3 will bring up the Scale tool, which, these are already scaled, so I think we're going to be good here. So let me just rotate this. And if I hold Shift and click while I'm translating, I can duplicate it. And I can grab and place multiple here. And now that will block off that road because we want to have a left-hand turn. And I am going to go and dig for some more assets, and I am going to complete this circuit. And once I'm done, I'll catch back up with you guys. So hold tight for just a moment. All right, as you can see, I've added a couple of different assets here. I added some little cardboard-looking signs with arrows, some jersey barriers with some lights telling us which way to go, and the same thing over here. And then at the end of this one, I have just concrete barriers with arrows. So you can add, as much as or as little as you want. I prefer to be, as detailed as possible with my waypoints and my my assets, just because I want the course to be legible by whoever's driving it. I want it to stand out and have them know exactly which way to go, so there's no confusion. So once you've got all your assets in there, let me scroll back up here. I accidentally opened up the asset browser and uncollapsed everything. So let me recollapse all the level objects and everything. And now you can see everything that I've created is listed under the player. So if I click new subgroup, that'll add something called a sim group. It's just a folder that we can drop things into. And if I click the first jersey barrier that I added, which you can see is over there, and I shift click the last thing I added, now everything that I've added is highlighted in orange. So I am going to click and drag. Well, let me just select them all again. I'm going to click and drag them into the sim group. That just puts them in this folder that I can now collapse. I can open it back up. And more importantly, I can right click and click Pack Prefab. Now, we're going to go up and up and up until we get to the folder with gameplay. We're going to double click. We are going to go to missions. We are going to go to West Coast, USA. We're going to go to timeTrial. We're going to go to that number 30 that we had discussed earlier. And we are going to call this, we're going to name it exactly what it wants to be named over here in the mission editor. So let's go back to mission editor. This wants main.prefab. Or main prefab.prefab. Make sure you spell it all right. The capitalizations are correct. And we're going to click save. And now, like magic, our prefab is listed as main.prefab. And it's selectable, or it's detected by the mission editor. So this is where we would put our forward prefab, our reverse prefab, if we wanted to have forward and reverse prefabs. I'm going to turn off allow recover, just so that, we're not going to allow you to recover. You're going to do this one and done. And then the last couple of things that we need to do is in the mission editor, we're going to go to career. We're going to make sure it says show in free roam. And then we are just going to make sure we save one more time. And then we are going to exit the editor. And as you can see, it still has our prefab loaded. This won't look like this when you do it. If you restart the game, the default one will be loaded. But I'm just going to Control L to reload the Lua here. And our time trial starts up here. So if I just, spawn my truck up here. And I go to tutorial time trial. I'll hit. Let me just set home. Home. Now you can see tutorial time trial. This is the one that we just created. I'm going to hit select to go into it. And I'm going to click start. So now you can see that we're loading into tutorial_time_trial. You can see it's at night, which is what we told it. We told it we wanted it at 7 o'clock. So let me just... headlights are turned on. And we're just going to click start. And so you can see that our waypoints are set up ahead. So let's go inside here. And there's the arrows telling us to turn left. And here's our lap. So that's lap 1. And we're just going to go through and we're going to do lap 2. And so as you can see, these time trials are very customizable. You can do whatever you want, you know, your imagination is the limit. And we finished the time trial here. And as you can see, success, progress for 2 laps. It took me just over a minute. And that is that. The only other thing that you may want to do is you may be asking, well, this is great. How do I share it with my friends? So what we're going to do is we are going to open up our BeamNG.drive folder, and we are going to go into gameplay, and we are going to go to missions, West Coast USA, time trial, tutorial time trial. So this is the one that we just created. It has all of our info.json, our main prefab.json, and our race.race.json. So we are going to copy that, and we are going to put it into a zip file. And we can call that zip file whatever we want. And we are going to call, in that zip file, we're going to do we're going to have a folder called gameplay, a folder called missions, a folder called the map title, so in this case, West Coast USA, and a folder called time trial. And then in that folder called time trial, we will paste our tutorial.timetrial. And then we can send that zip file to our friends. We can race. We can see who's the fastest on the track that you create. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm by no means an expert at this. I found out how to do this last week and built a time trial, and I'm now making a tutorial. So this is my second time trial here. So if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. Leave them in the comments. If you have any suggestions, let me know. And with that, I thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all real soon.